Welcome back to the PR Bunker podcast. Today, Adam Helweh of Secret Sushi joins the show to talk about building a business that stands out, why authentic networking still matters in a digital-first world, and how storytelling helps create stronger brands and better relationships. Adam shares his entrepreneurial journey, reflects on the connective tissue that drives meaningful business growth, and digs into the fast-changing role of AI in marketing, strategy, and the future of work. And here's your host, Don Martelli.
Yo, what's up, people? Welcome back down to the bunker with your boy, Don Martelli. I am here with my newfound friend from the West Side, West Coast, my buddy Adam. I love his company name. It has a little bit of food involved in the name, but he and I met on Alignable, and outside of looking very similar and two good-looking guys, I really hit it off with Adam. Loved his story. We shared a lot in common, and that first couple conversations we connected right away, and I had to have him on my podcast because I love his vibe. I love what he does with his company. But Adam, pleasure to have you down here in the bunker from Beantown to the West Coast. Thanks for being here, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. In the bunker, I love it.
In the bunker, kid. So as you and I talked about, our journeys respectively are all kind of messy, and we get to where we are today for a reason. There's people, timing, things that go in your lives. But before we get into all that, tell us about what you do, tell us about your agency, and tell us about the focus of your work.
Yeah, so I run an agency. In October will be 20 years, called Secret Sushi.
Love the name.
Thank you. Well, every single time I ever go to it, nowadays you can just, digitally deposit a check. But anytime I would go to the bank, that once every 6 months I had to go into the bank and talk to a teller. Every teller I would see would be different, and they would always ask me, "Oh, this is really cool. I think I've heard of your place. Like, aren't you guys, like, your restaurant is over here?" Or, "I love sushi. Where is it?" And I've only had one client who has ever had their finance department say to them, "I know that you really want to, like, incentivize your team to do a good job, but you're spending a lot of money on sushi for their lunches." And then one time I got a call from somebody asking me if we did party platters. So it didn't happen very often, but it was a happy accident with the name, because also people love the name.
Yeah, great stuff. Very memorable, and it sticks. So tell us about the work. What do you do for your clients, and what kind of clients do you work with?
Yeah, so we've worked with a blend of different clients over time. Over the recent years, because I'm in the Silicon Valley, we happen to be in proximity to a lot of people who are either starting startups or have built up technology companies of some kind. So a lot of the companies we've been working with in the recent years have been kind of B2B technology, some
Mhm.
B2B services and solutions folks. But we've also worked with everything from trade schools to pet boarding companies and that sort of thing. When I started, my heart was in helping small businesses. So we've worked with, a number of small businesses as well. But we do, it can be called full service or full stack digital marketing and strategy. So most of the folks that are working with us, they have little to no marketing like infrastructure or team or anything like that. They might be working with one other agency on something, maybe not, but they bring us on because they have a whole bunch of stuff that they know that they need to do, right? Marketing isn't just, I need somebody to go do just SEO. Like, nobody's going to survive just off of doing SEO normally. There's a blend of things that all work together. And so our philosophy is that we use the heart and science of marketing, both all of the stuff that involves knowing your customer, knowing how to communicate, creativity, empathy, connection, all that stuff, as well as the science side, which is the tools, the technology, the data, the processes, to help grow your business.
Mm.
And we do it on, both on the strategy side. Nothing we can't not be thinking strategically. So whether it's the services we're offering or our client brings us in and says, we really actually need your help with recommending what we should do, we're a bit overwhelmed
Mm.
with all of the different choices that are out there.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot.
And then the last part is that right now, because of my love for technology and sort of connecting the dots with emerging technology, we're growing a side of the business where we're helping folks with AI
Mm.
fluency and readiness. So we're training and offering strategy around AI at the moment.
Great, smart, wicked smart, as we'd say, because it's not going away. It's going to be present in everything that we use on any device in some way, shape, or form. They're really smart. And small business
Yeah.
owners are great at running their business, but they're horrible at using tools and managing their marketing stack and everything else. So they need folks like you all to do that. But how'd you get here? I mean, did you wake up one morning as a kid and say, "I'm going to be a digital marketer," which didn't exist when you and I, because we're graying the beard back in our days with fax machines and everything else. But how'd you get to this particular point? And where'd you start your career? And how'd you get to this point of being an agency owner in digital marketing?
I kind of joke that my name should be ADDAM because I just kind of loved all different stuff when I was younger. And, I enjoyed art and drawing and creativity and all this stuff. And then I enjoyed, as you can sort of see behind me, like all the geeky stuff and the
Oh, we'll
storytelling
get
and,
to that in a
and
second.
everything.
We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah. Um, but one of the things I really, really loved is the feeling of helping people, to be honest, like
Mm,
working with people and helping
mhm,
people. And so in my young adulthood, I started to travel California and do drug violence and alcohol prevention kind of
mm,
training.
mhm,
Think of it like there's Mothers Against Drunk Driving. The organization that we were working with was called Youth to Youth, and it had sort of this, no use message and this going into different communities trying to help connect that community with resources and people that could help some of the at-risk youth in those areas do better. So I spent a lot of time doing that on my kind of off hours. I was working 9 to 5 at McDonald's at one point and Baker Square at another and all of that sort of stuff. And then eventually over time, started to work my way into working with adults with
mm,
disabilities. So I was a vocational trainer where I would go out and take a group of folks out to. I remember we had a gig at Burger King, so we'd go to Burger King, and I had to suit up with everybody at Burger King, and I was helping individuals kind of learn how to be on the job and do stuff. So we'd go do Burger King for a
mm,
few hours or a water plant, and then also in care homes where we'd be at a home for half the day and do everything from cooking and cleaning
mm,
to passing medications and all that stuff. And there was something that was just really rewarding about all of that. I ended up also working in a classroom for a number of years as a class aide with children with autism. So like all that stuff, including working and doing the volunteering that I was doing to the leadership stuff throughout California, I just got to see what it was like to help people, be of service. At one point when I was in school, human services was my major.
mhm,
Before I then switched it over to new media
mm,
design, which is a very different thing, but that was where all the digital tools were coming out. I remember it
mm.
was like Illustrator 3 and
Yep.
Photoshop 2 and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you could do all of this
Yeah, wild.
directly on a computer."
Yeah.
And so again, that ADDAM, I was just doing all of those things at once, trying to feel out what was resonating with me. So when I started Secret Sushi, I had done all these things. I had worked even in a company doing digital design for a little bit. Uh, I wanted initially to go get a job someplace. I was
Mm,
between jobs for the first time in a while. And everywhere that I was applying for a job, I couldn't get past the resume
mm,
process.
mhm.
And that's what happens sometimes when you have a really fragmented
Yeah, of
sort
course.
of job history. You're like, you have all this history working with folks in care homes and stuff, but then you're trying to
How
get
does
an
it apply?
application for like marketing and design or whatever. And and so I just remember trying and trying and trying, and then eventually out of necessity, just going, I'm gonna try to sell myself. I think it'll be easier to try to just get a project here, a project there, and then I can fold that back in to my resume, and there'll be more recent experience, and it'll happen. 20 years later, I've never applied for a job. I grew an agency, and about 8 or 9 years into the agency, realized that most of what we were doing was solving business problems and marketing
Mm,
problems, and then the byproduct of that turned into the creative side of the stuff. So we went from being essentially a creative agency doing design work, web design and graphic design and stuff, to being a digital marketing company. And so I feel like it's like a perfect storm for me because digital marketing right now is very much around like understanding people and customers, creating that connection, sometimes a little hand holding through certain things, but then also embracing the creative side of things in, the design. Like who would have thought at that time we'd have so many channels to just create something and hit a button
Yeah.
and it's out in the wild for folks. So that's how I started.
You and I joked about, using fax machines back in the days, right? When we first started in this business. Now we've got LLMs running left and right and doing a bunch of things as we're sitting here talking. So it's incredible. I have to ask you,
Absolutely.
how'd you come up with the name of the company? What's the meaning behind it?
So I was trying to think of something to name the company, and I knew at the time that calling it like Adam Helweh or Helweh Designs or
Mm.
something like that was going to paint me into a corner. And so I was trying to think of all kinds of other names that would be phonetically easy for people to say. And a friend of mine that I had met in school in design classes, he and I just started to fall in love with sushi. Like we discovered it, we were loving it. And I don't know why. I pitched this project, this creative thing for us to do on the side called the Society of the Secret Sushi, and talking about how it seemed that sushi was a clandestine attempt by this Society of the Secret Sushi to infiltrate the humans
Mhm.
and manipulate us and influence us. And so it was this project. We were just joking around. We were creating characters and we had the website and all this that we were starting. And of course, ADD AM, we were both busy doing other things, trying to stay employed and all that stuff. And it just kind of withered on the vine. And so as I kept looking for domains and names and all this, I just told my friend, I was like, look, man, we're not doing anything with this.
Yeah.
I'm going to use this domain for the company. I don't know what made me feel that that was all right, given the name that Secret Sushi has nothing to do at all with, but it worked. I mean, it's something that again people talk about all the time. It's very memorable. It's not like we're always named exactly what we do, so it doesn't really matter. It gives you a vivid picture of the brand. And so what I did is, and as soon as that I did that, I people would ask me because they're like, what's the connection? What's the secret? So either I tell them I can't tell you, it's a secret.
I have to kill you if I tell you, right?
Yeah, exactly. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. And then the other is, you know, your company is like you've got a brand, and when you express yourself through marketing, through engaging with your customers and everything, you want to like I asked, like, do you like sushi? I would
Yeah,
imagine you like sushi,
absolutely.
right? Okay. If you like sushi, I know that there's folks out there, God forbid, that don't.
Yep.
But sushi is one of the most beautiful foods in presentation.
Mhm.
It's actually really nutritious.
Mhm.
It takes a ton of skill
Mhm.
to put together. You've got to have all the right materials, whether it's the sharp, awesome
Mhm.
knife that you use,
Mhm.
or the sushi grade fish.
Mhm.
Like your business deserves
That level of
assembling all of those things, those elements together as well,
that.
and being able to give folks something that doesn't just go as far as looking good on the plate, but once you bring it in and you take it in,
You want more.
it is delicious and satiating and makes you hungry for more.
Love
So
that.
your brand and your business should give the same experience. That's
Great.
what I used to say.
It's great. I mean, oftentimes people think that, branding and naming and things like that, there is a process to doing this the right way, but oftentimes the best ones, because it's by mistake, you've had it before, it just kind of lingered around, and you back into the story. I mean, I had the same kind of
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
during COVID. The only place I could work was down here in my office in my basement, and there's one window on this side of the house, which means when I walk out of the basement, I feel like I'm walking out of a casino or a bunker, right? And the stairs going up from the basement to the first floor, they're red. It reminds me of legitimately coming out of a bulkhead, right? And so my kids would be like, "Oh, Dad, you going down to the bunker today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to the bunker." And as I started my podcast and the business, and I was trying to figure out what to call it. And I was just sitting on this bunker thing for quite some time, and I backed into the story. And I say it now: the PR bunker is really about carrying those good stories through a media world that is filled of negativity. If it bleeds, it leads, and war and everything else. I want to be the guy that carries your good story into the war zone because I can be the guy that just, makes it seen, heard, and we can amplify it in a variety of ways. So just, just like you, we kind of stumbled upon this thing and we backed into the story, but that's what's I think so beautiful about the journey of being a solopreneur and somebody who gets to the particular point. I mean, just like you helping people out and just it got you to where you are today and you've learned a couple things. So good stuff. So clearly, when you think about where you are now and the fact you have been successful, there's a reason for that. And it's probably because of your network and us in marketing, we have no fear of network. But talk to us about like where the business is today, with all the tools available for you to integrate channels with your clients, and you've got to stay on that bleeding edge. How do you do all that, but still maintain a healthy network to grow your business? Because if you're not working on your business, you're kind of in the business, but you always need to be kind of connecting with people, right? Always be connecting, right? As you and I talked about on your podcast, which will be out at some point. What does that balance look like for you? Because you're a dad, you got a family to manage, you're going to have a life, but you've got this business you need to run, which is needs 24/7, 365. So how do you stay on top of the technology, the advancements, and maintain that person to person networking? What's your vibe?
Yeah, so there's always like the basics, and when I first started, everything was about networking, right? It was about
Mm,
going out once, maybe twice a week to a networking event. It was about putting yourself in a place where it may not be considered a networking event, but you know you're going to bump into somebody. I mean, sometimes you're just at the right place at the right time, and you just have a human conversation with somebody next to you, and you end up finding out that they're doing this and that and the other, and they know somebody. You go to dinner at somebody's house and they're inviting somebody that you don't know, and you just sit there and have a conversation, right? So just like being open to like talk and listen and get to know folks. But one of the things I always used to do was I'd find one or two people that I thought really stood out as, hey, there's something really obvious here that I could connect with them on, or that I can help them with, or vice versa. So I want to go a little bit deeper and see if there's something we should be taking action on, or just understand in the future, what that would, when I should keep my eyes open
mm,
for something for them.
mm,
And so I would go and usually find two or three folks at these events, and I would plan immediately after that event, within the next week, to go out and have a coffee with them. And that way it wasn't like I was waiting until an opportune moment. I was doing it immediately. There was a recency aspect to it that they knew. It was like, I just met you. Here's what we were talking about. Let's go sit down and have a coffee. I would always treat that coffee. I wanted everything to just be like, look, I want you to just come over here and I just want to get to know you, be comfortable. Maybe you came out from your side of the town or the Bay Area here where I live. And I would always find that if I just did that and sat down and made that environment and shut up, I would learn a lot from that person, whether it was about an industry, about them, about the opportunities that they were looking for, up about some ways that they possibly could help me, all of that sort of stuff. And then I would connect the dots back to who do I already know right now? What do I know that's going on right now that I can help them with? Is there a tool I'm using, whatever? And there was a period, and I was really successful with that. I grew my network really well with that. And at the time, unfortunately, it did turn into kind of like a stack of business cards and everything, because I didn't have a process.
mhm,
And that's the thing that I really wish that I would have had back then, was a better process for taking each and every person and putting them someplace, so that way I can enrich some information around them. And I don't mean that in the current term, because
mhm,
there's definitely a different method for doing that now. But I think it was a couple years back, 3, 4, 5 years back, where I ended up finding like huge stacks of these business cards and looking at them and going, I know that 70% of the information on here is not
mm,
accurate any longer. I don't even know if I know these people exist, but I don't even really know what they're up to these days. I really wish I would have kept up with that. And so fast forward to now, I spent a lot of time working in the business, and so there were large gaps where I was like, a lot of us, as things became much more virtual centric,
mhm,
we stopped going out and meeting folks, and not necessarily always carrying it over to like creating those same one-on-one experiences even virtually. And so there was a period of time where that wasn't happening as much. COVID happened, of course, where people were just dying to go out and do some stuff. And in fact, just before COVID, I was like, I'm going to now make sure that I carve out that time that
mhm,
keeps getting usurped by everything else,
mhm,
to go and network with folks. COVID happened, squash that. And you can feel it in the business when you're not doing those things. You could absolutely feel it in the business. And so eventually a few years back, started a couple years ago, started back up with that. And you have to have a process. So for instance, me, I have HubSpot. I think the two biggest things is having a CRM and having like a note-taking app. Those two things are like the bare minimum, because I can have a conversation now with somebody. I don't have to worry about taking every little note. My brain can be fully focused on having that conversation with them instead of thinking, what do I need to take away from this
Mhm.
in a note? And when you tie those things together, I can go to like every single conversation I've had with Dawn, barring it's not like, some impromptu thing that you and I are talking on the phone or on a text message or whatever. But if we're talking on a Zoom call, or even, you can put your phone down and record, if whatever, if there's something that you're brainstorming with somebody, I can go back and I can use that information to try to figure some things out and stitch things together, especially when you add LLM on top of it. Or like, I use a tool called Fellow. So for me, I use Fellow for notes, and Fellow has like a brain with AI on it. And I can go back through and say, what was the theme of most of what I talked to over the course of the last 6 months, and
Yeah.
all the times that I talked to Dawn.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's, you and I met on Alignable, and that was one of the things that I really loved about Alignable. Is I'm always on the bleeding edge of technology and social networks. If something pops up today, I'll go and sign up and just check it out. And I had heard about Alignable for a long time, and when I sort of was like, I don't know if there's a critical mass right now over there. I don't know if I want to spend any energy. And somebody mentioned something to me about 2 months ago, and about it, and I went and checked it out. And I was like, what the heck? Why aren't more people like, this is supercharging what I used to do. Like, this is absolutely supercharging what I used to do. When you go and you network with people, you want to be around like-minded people. If people are all about referrals and trying to understand what you do so they could refer things to you or potentially use you, versus people are on, like, on LinkedIn, not everybody's there to sell or buy.
Mhm.
They might be there to hope that they can get some attention, but they're sharing what's going on, and most of the time they're just leaving their profile up there as their resume, and that's about it. When you go to a place where everybody's like actually has the same mindset around what they're trying to do and how they're trying to network and all that, then things just the wheels are greased. And so that's what I was finding, and I'm still trying to figure out the best process right now, because I wish that Alignable had like a better integration with
Mhm.
other tools,
Mhm.
like a HubSpot integration, or,
Mhm.
or something like that.
Yep.
But for a start, it's been supercharging things for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the underlying principle of the platform is about it's not one-to-one networking, but it's rather one-to-one plus their second degree. So, like, you and I sat in a room and brought every single business card of any relationship we've ever had into that room today, it'd be hundreds, if not thousands, of people that we're literally connected to, that we could start a business today. We could start a podcast tomorrow. We could do all types of things because we've spent the time networking. And just like you, I had the same issues where in my 20s, 30s, I was networking, sort of, kind of, didn't think I had to do it, but I did it because it was the thing to do in public relations. And you get to a point when you get old, you realize that that's what you really have to do, because regardless of the channels we have in front of us, LLMs and the TikToks, the Snap faces, everything else, it's still human to human connections, and word of mouth is going to be and will continue to be the best channel your business could ever have. Because if somebody likes you and they trust you and they know the quality of your work and they'll say positive things about you to somebody else, they're going to take the call. They're going to answer the email. I'd rather have 5 quality half-hour one-on-ones a week versus having to blast out 10,000 emails in hopes that somebody's going to respond to me. And so I agree. I think that while the technology and the world that we live in is fantastic, and the speed of information is great, and we have all the stuff to use, but it's still doing exactly what you and I have done now for just about a month, to get to know each other. And in that short time frame, we've gotten to know each other pretty well, where I know what you're looking for, you know what I'm looking for. We can figure out each other's gaps, and just, two guys, two dads that are running our lives in business to just have a conversation. So I think that's fantastic.
But with that said, you have to have the right, like, technology can help maybe initiate things. You
Correct.
have to have the right attitude. Like, the reason you and I connected was I said something, at one point I brought something up and there's a willingness that I have to bring something up that may be a little bit more personal,
Yeah.
or that might be a little bit more vulnerable of what's going on or whatever, right? Like, not everybody has to kind of like open up their entire chest and just kind of put it out there. But but I put that out there. You saw it, you heard it, and you were like,
Yep.
I'm that way too,
Yeah.
right? And so like you have to have the right attitude when it comes to networking.
Mhm.
If all it is about stabbing that person, like with the virtual business card, it's not gonna work.
Yeah. It's the connective tissue,
So
right? It's finding the connective tissue between you and that other person. They could be from the other side of the country, have a different accent than you, different religion, background. It doesn't matter. It's like we're all human beings, and it's you've got to really work hard to not find that connective tissue. And for us, it was relatively easy because we're both in marketing communications and we're designed to communicate. But like you meet people in on Alignable that are in the bookkeeping space, or they're life coaches and they're relatively introverted. And our job is to sort of pull it out. But what you said it before, just like going to grab coffee with somebody, just hey, nice to meet you, John. Where are you from? What do you do for work? How can I help you? And just shutting up, which I think is a beautiful part of that. So we're at the point where in the podcast where I love to pivot to things that are just more personal, but kind of also business related. What is one of the things you are obsessed with these days? Technology, a movie, a show, a book, a podcast? What's kind of like taking up free space in that brain of yours that you're into big time?
it's going to sound a little cliche because it's such a phenomenon right now. It is AI, and the reason is, I go by that. I think it's an Arthur C. Clarke quote, which is significant advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And so for me, one of the things that I love about technology, right? Like when you're a kid, you watch Back to the Future and the hoverboard, right? You watch Minority Report and you watch Star Trek and Star Wars and all this, and you see all these pieces of technology. And I was always a science person, by the way. Science is something I loved. I excelled at science since I was in like kindergarten. And so when you start to like learn the science behind how things work and see people, especially I'm living in the Silicon Valley, and how Silicon Valley pulls together all these tools like to make the iPhone, and you realize like, well, how does the iPhone have a compass in it, and how does an accelerometer work, and what happens when you pull all these sensors together and find a way to connect them to the brain of the phone. When you had the iPhone and used to blow into the speaker that Ocarina app that you could make music
Yeah,
with it,
yeah.
like how the heck do that seems all magical. I love that, and it connects with my childhood and seeing what that technology could look like in all these movies and TV shows and books. And then now we're living in a time where we couldn't fathom what AI would look like, and we always thought, well, hopefully it would come. That would be incredible. And then suddenly it's here, and every day it's the worst that it'll ever be, and then it gets circumvented by something new
True.
update that comes out in a week.
Truth.
So for me, it's trying to make sense of this for not just myself, but everybody else, because AI isn't just like the iPhone. The iPhone is, we get it. It's a phone. You can text message with it. Like it's pretty finite in its capabilities, even though it would expand over time. AI is completely
Mm,
in a different ballpark.
mhm.
There's so many ways that it can be used, and every single human is using it differently. And so I've been really digging in, trying to find the best way to make sure that I can help individuals blaze their path for using AI, especially given where it is now,
Mhm,
so they have a foundation that they can build on, from here on out. So I think you and I both, we use Claude.
mhm.
And I got to say, like, we as an agency, we use all different LLMs and tools and so on. But as far as assistants go, the entire team has been using ChatGPT. Over the last month, I've dove into Claude, and my mind has been blown by what it does between co-work code and its normal chat, and how much it um, understands your intent of your work. um it's built for me. I'm built for the AI age. It just feels really
Same,
natural to the way that I work and think.
same. I'm with you 100%. I think it outside of exploring new food options, AI is kind of that thing where every I'm subscribing to every newsletter I can, every Substack that touches the topic, from your basics to how it gets developed, and how these data farms are being built. I mean, everything around it is just so fascinating because it is going to live and breathe in every little thing that we use from a technology standpoint. TV, your phone, your computers, your tablets. Who knows? I mean, even down the line in 20, 30 years, how medicine gets dispersed at your local pharmacy. I mean, who knows, right? It's
Yeah.
literally, to your point, today is the worst day for it. And then tomorrow is going to be the worst day for it, and just keeps growing, which is fantastic. It's just it's an interesting and exciting and just strange and weird and cool time to be living, I would say. Good stuff. So if people want to find you, connect with you, learn more about your business, most importantly, if they need some help in this particular area, where can they find you?
So Secret Sushi, funny enough, right? Secretsushi.com, but almost anywhere you'd see, I mean, even on my PlayStation username would be Secret Sushi, but
Nice.
you end up finding Secret Sushi almost anywhere, as well as Adam Helweh. I've been around for a long, long time and found a
Google me,
profile
baby.
on everything. So you can just, find that or Google me. You'll be able to find me.
Well, you mentioned PlayStation. What's your games of passion these days?
I grew up on, fighting games.
Yeah.
So things like Street Fighter and Tekken. And I'll be honest, I have been focusing on a game called Helldivers.
Mm,
I don't know if you've ever played Helldivers
I've not,
before.
but I've heard a lot about it.
Man, I love it because there's an underlying story. You as a story guy
Yeah,
would
yeah,
probably really
yeah.
love it. And it's a live service game, which means that the story is anybody who joins becomes part of whatever the story is going on this week. So if you log on this week, you'll see this universe of planets and factions, and you go out and you choose your loadout and you kind of use your skills and stuff
Mhm.
to fight the aliens
Yeah.
or the robots or whatever. I love that. And then as a comic book guy, I've been playing Marvel Rivals,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you get to step in the shoes of Marvel characters and stuff, which is I'm a comics guy. I've
Yeah.
been collecting comics for
Who's your go-to
years.
character in that game?
My go-to in that game is not my go-to, is not my favorite in real life.
Okay.
Moon Knight is my guy
Okay.
in the
Who's your
game.
favorite in real life?
Wolverine. So I think you can
Nice. Oh,
see
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I've got Wolverine, Batman, Spider-Man, Hulk. Those are my guys.
Like it. Like that's your squad, huh? That's who you're
Yeah.
dropping in with. Love
If
that.
I could
Love
have
that.
4, that would be my
Yeah,
fantastic
why
4.
not? I mean, well, and I think look, I'm a gamer too. I'm a Call of Duty guy. Apex. Fortnite. That whole thing. I'll play all the sports games. Right, I've been playing Madden since it ever came out. But I think it's for guys like us that grew up around technology. I think it's just natural for us to continue to play games because we're still 18-year-old kids at heart. But it's an escape, right? I always joke that I've got a 5 to 9, 9 to 5, and a 5 to 9, and then the 9 to midnight, which is basically in the morning I'm doing my bunker work. In the middle of the day, I'm working for Alignable, working with users, doing coaching sessions, working on the playbook content, and then when that's all wrapped up, and at the end of the day, I'm kind of turning the bunker hat back on. Then, like when that 9 o'clock time frame rolls around, it's me and the boys dropping in. Man, we're dropping in for 2 or 3 hours streaming. I just got brought on to a gaming community called Nexus, where we're doing every week on Thursdays. We're live streaming competitive matches, which it's a whole tournament we're doing. I'm doing kind of the color commentary during the sessions, which is pretty cool. So just, I know people laugh at those that continue to play video games, but it's a major market, billions of dollars being spent in there. And for guys like us that get stress of, paying bills and managing our family and kids, it just tends to be a nice little stress reliever. And you get to meet some pretty cool people. And it's one of those like common things that you and I just connected on real. I saw the stuff behind you thing. I was like, this dude's a gamer. I know he is. And it was like the third question I asked. And I was like, love this guy. We're going to be friends. So Adam, it's one, great that we're connected. I'm glad the world and universe put it together. 2, congratulations on the 20-year run you've had with Secret Sushi, which I
Thank you.
love. I love the name. Just fantastic. Again, remind us where they can find you. What's the URL?
Secretsushi.com.
Perfect. Just Google them if you will. I'll definitely have you back in the bunker. Congratulations on everything else. And I know you have a podcast too. Where can they find your podcast?
Yeah, marketing in the raw. So I talk with marketing leaders. I talk with you, right? And want to learn about folks, their story behind it, but also how do you stay relevant given all the change that's going on? And I call it marketing in the raw because riff off of sushi and the fact that I just want to have like really raw, open conversations.
Love it.
So
It's all
yeah.
connected. The story connects. I love that stuff. Well, awesome. Thanks for being here at the PR Bunker and the podcast here, but we'll do this again sometime soon.
All right. Take care.
All right, brother. Thanks. Boom.
Thanks for tuning in to the PR Bunker podcast, where we go beyond the headlines and into the trenches with founders, builders, and operators making real moves. This show is brought to you by the PR Bunker, a strategic communications agency helping mission-driven and impact-focused organizations cut through the noise and tell stories that matter. Want to learn more? Head to prbunker.com and subscribe to the Bunker Briefing, our monthly email newsletter packed with a 45-second read that's stacked with value. We're talking practical PR and communications insights, networking tips, and strategies to help you navigate the moments that matter. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. We've got more raw, real conversations on the way. So stay locked in. Until next time, keep building, stay resilient, and remember, momentum favors the bold.